Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Adoptees podcast. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Thomas Kirst. Welcome to the show, Thomas. Really looking forward to our conversation today, my friend.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Thomas is a fellow adoptee. If I remember correctly, you're in your 40s. Is that right, Thomas?
42.
42, yeah. So I'm 13 years ahead of you at the moment here at 55. When Thomas and I had a conversation about a month or so ago, something that he shared with me really resonated, because I felt angry too, right? I felt anger towards my birth mother, but Thomas had what I thought was a stunningly precise way of summing up that anger. And you said, Thomas, that you felt that anger was stitched into you, right? Is that the word? Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
Well, I feel like mothers, when you're in the womb, you have a connection. And when my father told my mom to abort me and she didn't, I think that she had a slew of emotions that stuck with me from the beginning. And I feel like I lived through that with, my whole life, with the wondering, the anger, lashing out at people when I was younger, not understanding my situation, and not understanding why I wasn't wanted. It deeply affected me and caused so much anger on my inside.
Wow. We're not pulling any punches with this with this podcast, listeners. We're getting right straight to the heart of this stuff. This is deep stuff. This is profound, and this is where the change happens. And I'm getting kind of like tingly feelings coming down my body here as I kind of can connect with this, because I feel that change happens at a profound level. And I was once kind of accused by a friend of mine of being too deep, and I didn't have the fast comeback for that in the moment. But I came up with it the following day, which was, would you prefer that I was more shallow? We live in a culture that's pretty, in the West here, that's pretty shallow. And what I'm trying to do here with the Thriving Adoptees podcast is go deep, because that's where the gems are, right? That's where the diamond that we truly are is hidden deep down. So yeah, no apologies whatsoever. No, we're pulling no punches here, and I'm tingling in anticipation of what we're going to uncover. So, you dropped it straight away. Like your father told your mother to abort you. I mean, that's like, wow.
And what sticks out with that is that she hid the pregnancy. So he actually doesn't know I existed, and he had already died before I ever met them. So he has no idea that I'm alive, or was alive. Has no idea about the adoption. She was told that I was a stillborn, and being a middle child. So I have a younger sister, 6 years younger than me. I have an older brother, a year and a half older than me, and another sister. And for me to be picked out of those three, which I wouldn't want, this to happen to them, but I would have always assumed that I was the first child. Maybe it was, young, and they just, possibly wanted to, to get rid of me. But to know that I was a middle child, really, like, what would have went through his mind that if you keep three children, what about me that you couldn't have known as I was in her stomach, that you'd say, here's $400, just get rid of them. I don't want you to have this baby. And I can't go back and ask him why. And that's what I'm living with, at this moment, because I found them at 37. So knowing, or after finding out the story, it's really hard. That's really hard.
Yeah, yeah. Does some adoptees get angry about being called angry, right? And it's like our feelings are being invalidated, pushed aside. We're feeling not listened to. We're not feeling heard. But it strikes me that what you're talking about is kind of deeper than that, right?
Yeah. As far as other people, I've came to the conclusion that if you can't it's very hard to explain to someone when they know their family, when they know their mom and dad, they can at least make a choice whether they like them or not. If you just take that all away and you try to explain to someone, no, take all, no, nobody. I was 26 when I met somebody with my bloodline, was when I had my daughter. And you're out in this world essentially alone, trying to piece together why and what happened, while just trying to live and be normal without people not thinking you're crazy because you're in an emotional whirlwind all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite something, I'd say.
Yeah. The kind of the metaphor that came to my mind is like a complete lack of grounding. You've got no firm basis for who you are, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's kind of compounding the feelingness of the feeling of being alone, and the questioning, and yeah. How does the anger come into that, do you think?
I think, well, looking back, the anger, I think that's the only emotion that I think made sense to me that would come out. Because it's not going to be happiness. It's not going to, I couldn't feel gratitude because of the situation I was in. I couldn't feel love because I started life not being loved, I guess, in a sense. I mean, she probably loved me, but I mean, I wouldn't know. So then it turns out to be, then I don't know how to show love. I don't know how to give love. I don't know what a real family like would be. I would look at other people's houses and say, well, why couldn't that be my life? And when I see brothers and sisters, or you just see a family, and I would just stare at families, when you see a mom and a dad, and they got their kid, and you're just walking, you're just like, what was wrong with me? And then you're just angry, like, because then you think it's not fair, doesn't make sense or anything.
Yeah. So Thomas, my heart really goes out to you, pal, because I've had anger towards my birth mother. I said earlier on, I'm 55, right? I can probably, I've said this before. I said this a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if I said it on the podcast, but I can kind of recall 20 or 30 seconds, right, of the most intense anger I've pretty much ever felt, directed to my birth mother. That's like 30 seconds, a minute tops, right? In 55 years on this planet. And
wow.
Yeah, and that minute. And let's call, like sometimes I think when we're in anger, there's when we're kind of, I remember this as fighting in school, in the school playground, you'd get like the adrenaline would run after the fight had happened. The fight would be ended, but there'd still be some adrenaline running through me. So, I'm remembering a minute, but the after effects may have maybe an aftershock from this earthquake, like a volcano-like eruption of anger in me. So, and that really scared me at the time. Okay, so it happened in two conversations, one with a therapist and one with a coach lady. This kind of man. But that 1 minute scared the heck out of me, and it sounded. And the reason my heart goes out to you is because you felt years of it compared to how that storm didn't completely engulf you, and I guess it did at times. Did it? Did the storm engulf you? The rage engulf you?
A lot. I added a lot of pain in my life from reacting to the anger, living my life through the anger. That just made my life, more hard. Whether it be before I was 18, when I was still, in my teenage years, doing drugs, thinking that was the way. But I was always thankful, believe it or not, that, I delved into drugs at, 14, because I realized at that moment that that's not the way that I would need to handle this. So I was able to know that, okay, I'm not gonna, so I would have rather that happen before I had kids, or me wake up one day, at 24, 26, 30, have kids, and then all of a sudden not be able to deal with it, and then, think that would be the way. And then, with then going to jail, the 18s, just not caring, just getting DUIs, not like criminal behavior, just not caring, just wanting to escape. And then I'd move a lot. I moved to Columbus. I moved out of state. It's like I was searching for something that I was never going to find, just, by running away from everything.
Yeah. Can I take you back to that glimpse that you had at 14, that drugs
Sure.
were the way? Do you remember that moment when you had that glimpse?
I did. I found myself in the woods, and I was talking to myself. I was hearing voices, and I thought I was crazy. And I was on drugs, and it was so bad. I had to tell my mom. I stopped and I said, Mom, I don't know what's going on, but there's something wrong with my mind. I'm hearing voices. I'm talking to myself, and I need help. And I went to an inpatient rehab for, I want to say, about 40 days. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot there, and like never had that issue again. But I was really, really lost in those moments. And and growing up in the house that I did, I had all kinds of older brothers. I was second to the youngest out of 24, and they weren't the best influences. So they were hurt just like I was hurt. That we all came from a place, of hurt. So obviously they would just offer whatever. There's just all kinds of a lot of negative stuff that went on in the house that I grew up in.
Yeah. 24 siblings.
Yes. It was crazy.
It was. Well, yeah. I mean, it's gonna be wild, and all coming from trauma, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Worst of the worst, because all my brothers, we were all hard to place children. So you take those angry kids and you put them in one room, tell them that you're family now. A lot of fighting, a lot of crazy, yeah, just a lot of anger. I mean, it was.
Yeah. and everybody dragging each other down. You know,
Yeah.
so one of my favorite mentors, a guy called Richard Wilkins. He calls himself the Minister of Inspiration. He's here in the UK. If people want to Google him. He says encouragement does for humans what helium does for balloons. Yeah. So it lifts us. It lifts us. The encouragement lifts us. But you were living in a world of discouragement and people coming from, as you say, from hard places. That's like you're in the basket of the balloon, right? And you're in the basket and the balloon on your own, and everybody else is throwing heavy rocks into the basket of the balloon that's going to keep you down.
Yeah.
It's going to keep you down. And everybody's kind of like, you know, you talked about the voices in the voices in your head. I think we all have that voice in our head, right? But in the old days, people used to get sent to mental institutions for having a saying they had a voice in their head. I think we've all got a voice in our head to some extent. And it's an echo chamber, right? So the questions are going kind of round and round in our heads. Why was why was I relinquished by my birth mother? Why didn't my birth mother keep me? All those questions that we have as adoptees, and then so there's enough going in our heads already. And then we're in a home that's an echo chamber with 23 other kids, 23 other siblings, and it just compounds it, and it grows. So they're all coming from the same place as well. So no wonder you were looking to escape that. So you've talked about the that wisdom keeping you, alerting you to the fact that something was wrong, and then going into this inpatient facility.
Mm-hmm.
What other insights did you have? What other moments of clarity did you have between being 14 and now you're 42? What other particularly poignant or insightful moments come to your mind in terms of when you got a glimpse of a way out of this anger?
I don't. It's one of those things where I don't think I ever searched for a way out. I wanted to repackage it. I wanted to make it a purpose, because it's almost like, okay, this is my face. Okay, I have to live with like my face. I can't change.
He's a good-looking guy, by the way, listeners.
But I can't. I know I can't change it. So I said, okay, this is me. This is my circumstance. So how can I use it to motivate me? It was when I was like, I'm gonna write a book. I needed a light at the end of the tunnel. I said, well, one day I'm gonna find my parents. One day I'm gonna write this book. No matter what, I have to get here before I die. There's certain things I put on myself that I would need to do, which that probably helped me the most. That I saw something that I wanted to do. I also wanted to be a parent. I said, I want to be a better parent than anyone ever on this earth when I get the opportunity. So I just put stuff in my head, like I'll just envision stuff and say, okay, this is what I'm going to go after. I'm going to do everything in my power to at least see this before, like when I'm older.
Can you remember the first time or the most significant times one of these new thoughts came into your head?
Which thought? I'm sorry.
You said that you decided that you were going to you were stuck with your face, and I complimented you and you laughed it off, right? And then you also said that you're going to change your circumstances. So can you remember a time when that you had that kind of aha moment, right? I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna change something about this. Can you remember one of those moments?
Oh, the serenity prayer. The serenity, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. And that's what I say that like every day. Those words, because I can live in an emotional state, but it can only be like all the counseling or anything I ever talk to anyone about. It's a mindset. At the end of the day, it's just a mindset of where I'm going to have my mind. But I think that those clarity moments, like it gets bright sometimes and it's dim. It just kind of depends on what's going on, and it's like I just have to always climb back out of a hole that. Because I don't know, I want to say that I'm always just I'm okay all the time. Sometimes, some days it gets heavy. Recently, like just recently, I never even thought about this, but as I'm going to write another book, and it just came to me yesterday, and I'm actually going to talk to my dad. You know, talk to my birth father, because I still don't have all this figured out. You know, um, and it's just like something that just stays, that
Yeah.
just stays um, with me.
Yeah. I think talking for myself here, there's this idea that once we've learned something, you know, I'm going to live happily ever after, right? I've had this insight, I've seen something new, and now everything's going to be permanently happy. There's elation in the moment, and everything's going to be okay now. And then the SH1T hits the fan again, right?
Mm-hmm.
The bad feeling comes in, and our life has gone from 6 to 10 out of 10, and then we're our anger has gone from a force 10 gale to complete calm, and then a force 2 gale hits us, and we're kind of like, well, where did that come from? I thought life was going to be plain sailing after this, and that.
Mm.
So we kind of get frustrated, and when I say we, I mean me, right? I get frustrated because I thought, well, I've overcome this anger. I've seen the light, to use your words, and now I'm back in the dark again, and I'm frustrated as heck because I thought it was like learning a bike, right? So when we learn to ride a bike,
Mm-hmm.
we never forget,
Yeah.
but we always seem to forget. um, that light, it seems to be. Yeah, am I making much sense here? To that?
Yes. Yes. If, it sounds like to me, if say there's something going on, I'm like, all right, I figured something out, I'm good now, and then something else pops up. So it's almost like you turn a corner and you're like, oh, finally, I'm good. And then next thing you know, there's another corner that you need to cross, or another bridge to cross.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is the story of my life. Every time I think I figured out one thing, then there's something else. Because I think that it almost compiles. Say you have, if you're done, okay, I got my anger under control, and then it's the emotions of the anger, and then you deal with the emotions of the anger, and then it's like, why do you have that anger? Because it's like the questions never stop coming, as if you just never stop learning. Because I think that's when your body would want to give up and die. So I think that's what, even for me, it's like, you would think that I would just have gray hair and like look really stressed, but well, a lot of people tell me I look a lot younger than what I look, or what I am, but I try not to care about things, but deep inside, I feel things, but I try on at least the outside, maybe it's hard to explain, to just not stress over it. Um, because I don't want to go crazy.
Yeah, yeah. The idea that the metaphor that came to mind. Have you heard that game Whack-A-Mole?
Yes.
Whack-A-Mole, yeah. So
Yes.
we think we think we've hit the anger. We've hit the anger back down in its hole, and then it pops up in a different it pops up from a different hole, and we whack it down again, and and the peace is in accept the peace, I think, comes from seeing in the moment that mole is going to pop up again, right? It's not being. So I used to worry about worrying, right? And then I'd worry about worrying, and it just, as one guy, a mentor of mine, says, we just have more on, like we become a moron, yeah, a moron, because we've got more on our mind. We're fighting our feelings, and yeah, we never win that fight. We never win the fight. The acceptance, and back to the serenity prayer.
Mm-hmm.
If we accept our emotions rather than fighting our emotions, then we're at peace.
I think that's the closest way to peace. Stuff happens, and a lot of it just isn't my fault. Accepting that a lot of it had nothing to do with me, as far as like my fault. Did I ask for this? Did I do something? I put myself in a position to be in this position? No. So I have to accept that this was my life, and believe that there was a purpose for me on this earth. Believe that even if it's just being a father, it's that important. I think, to me, even just my job as a parent, and to break the cycle that I was in right now, I think is one of my most accomplished things. My two boys that I'm raising, I've never been a day without them. All A's. One's playing, they play sports, their music. We're giving them all the opportunities. And I can try to talk to them about pain, and they don't understand. They don't understand. I don't know if that's a good thing sometimes or a bad thing, because they cannot relate by no stretch of the imagination. They're happy. And I but to see their happiness, actually yesterday I was looking through old pictures and photos of us, and just all our memories. And I'm like, I can be thankful to God that I'm able to be here with them, and love them, and to see that a cycle, at least now, hopefully, they grow up to be great men. But this cycle's broken. And I take a lot of pride in that, because I know that I went through a lot to just, be able to be here, and be their father, and do the best that I can.
Yeah. My wife's uncle, unfortunately, he died this year. His dad was an alcoholic. So the guy was, Brian was, I don't know, early 70s. Brian's dad was an alcoholic and used to beat on Brian,
Mm.
and Brian's first born was a boy. He went on to have a girl as well, and he explained this with stunning clarity to me about the moment he first held his son in his hands, and he had this epiphany, which was he was going to be a totally different father. to his dad. His dad was an alcoholic, abusive, abused him, beat on him, emotional abuse. And there was a stunning moment of clarity when he looked into his son's eyes and just said, "I'm going to be a different dad." How has being a dad shaped who you are today, Tom?
Being a dad shaped me in the way that I found purpose in what I'm doing. I coach, soccer and basketball. I honestly pour my time. Like, even if there's days I don't want to play with them, I'll still play with them. And I got a sense of calmness when I'm with my kids. And I feel like, I don't want to feel like, because I'm very happy with my life, at this point, but I guess it's more like what could have been. And seeing they're 10 and 8, and they still come in and give us hugs and kisses before, they go to bed. And those little things, I just feel like there's not a dollar amount, there's nothing that could replace that. And I wonder sometimes, say I did grow up with my birth family, would I be the father that I am? Would I look at fatherhood the way that I do? And if there was a trade-off, to either have my parents and not have these unwanted feelings, and to take the possibility of not feeling or being the father that I am today, I would go through this again, just so I could know that my kids would be loved the way they are.
Wow. Wow.
So I would go through whatever it would take. If you know how you hear parents, you say, if I could just take your pain away, if your child's hurt or something, you'd do anything to be able to do that. Just go through the worst life that you could possibly think. I would redo it. I would do it over again to see just the smiles on their faces. 100%. And it makes it worth it. It makes it worth it too.
So it's almost as if the intensity of the anger and the pain of the past has flipped itself on its head, right? It's taken you so far down.
Is how far I feel I can go up.
Yeah.
That's the way I said, if I can go that far down, if I can make it that far down and come up, I have to dream and think that the sky is literally the limit, or there is no limit to the sky, or it's just, I can go on forever.
Yeah.
And can't be stopped. And I only mean that in the sense that mentally I can't be stopped. Like, I won't accept giving up.
Yeah.
Not putting in 100% anything, that I do.
Yeah. There's a couple of phrases come to my mind, and a couple of phrases and different metaphors. Did I explain the beach ball metaphor? Did I share that with you last time we spoke?
I don't think so, but
I'll give it a go. Right. So you're in the sea. You've got a beach ball, or a soccer ball, right? And you play a plastic soccer ball, and you're in the sea, and you're forcing that ball down underwater, right? And gravity doesn't want you to do that. So, like, but you're putting your weight behind it, and your palms are on the top of the ball, and you're pushing it deep underwater, right? So you push it down about a foot, say, right, and then you let go of it, and it bounces back, but it sometimes bounces back further than you put it down.
Mm-hmm.
So you go down a foot, but it bounces back 2 foot when it comes out of the other. So, and this for me is kind of that perfect metaphor for resilience, right?
Yeah.
And for something that's called post-traumatic growth. Now, we live in a pretty negative culture in the West, and all the talk is about PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. Despite the fact that 80 to 90% of people that go through these events don't get it, right? So we focus and we look after the 10 to 20% that do get it, but we don't spend a lot of time looking at, well, what's going on for the 80 to 90% of people that don't get it, that bounce back higher, right? And yeah, and it's called post-traumatic growth. So it seems to me that you're like the poster boy for post-traumatic growth, right? You've been down in the really tough stuff, and you've kind of like you've bounced back higher on the back of the kind of the insight, some of the insights you've had along the way, and that's where we go. That's what drives us forward. That what drives us upwards are the insights, epiphanies, aha moments, new ideas that occur to us as we're going through that tough stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I never heard that analogy, and you definitely didn't say it the last time. That's very, very interesting. I can definitely see how that would be a great way to.
Because that is the light at the end of the tunnel, the hope that something's going to be better, that we come. So a lot of people talk about this. A lot of people talk about enlightenment, right? And I've heard something recently from a guy that I listen to a lot, and it's called endarkenment. So the idea is that we start off light, and then we are endarkened, right? We lose sight of the light that we are. So it's like a veiling. So the anger veils the truth of who we are, like a cloud. Like clouds veil the truth of the sun behind us, because the hope is in, if we're waiting to be enlightened, it's like, well, when's that going to happen? What do I need to do? But if we look at it as if we are the light, and that light has just been veiled, then all we need to do is to see behind the veil. Does that make any sense?
Yes, no, absolutely. If I think, had I kept my, say, head in the clouds, per se, I think that's when that would have been a lot easier for me to repeat exactly what happened. So if there is the cloud that you speak of, there's just a little hole, and you could see that just a little bit of the sun coming through. I held on to that. I saw a little bit of the sun. I held on to that very tightly. I said, eventually I'll go through it and I'll see the full sun. that's because if I wouldn't have seen no light, obviously, you can't see me, right? But I have cuts. I was willing to. I would have died over these feelings. I would have killed myself over these feelings, 100%. But I saw a light. I saw a light, and I don't know. Maybe if I did actually see it, or I created it. But I said there has to be a light. There has to be a reason for what is going on. There, I don't. I'm not the most religious person, but God was what gave me hope. And that's who I would talk to, whether it be writing letters. I have journal entries from 20 years ago, talking to him. And that's one of those things that you don't have a friend, you don't have a parent to talk to. No one understands you. So I would just talk to God, and I would just tell him how I'm feeling. I'll give you one example. One of the times that I went to jail, I was sitting in there. Now you would think you'd want to blame everyone, you'd want to be angry, scared. I prayed and I just asked. I said, "You've done enough for me. You kept me alive." I just asked for a smile. When I was sitting in jail, I just asked for a smile, and he gave it to me. And I was happy in that moment that no matter what, whether I was in a cage out here, because I'd already always felt trapped. So either way, it was that situation where I had to find hope, and just a smile gave me hope that I can change, that I can be better than this, that I can make the right decisions, that I'm here for a reason. I'm not just a nobody. I'm not just an unwanted, no one cares about me child. I'm not gonna let the abuse dictate my life. I'm not gonna let my anger dictate my life. I wanted to be better.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely somebody, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm playing with an idea at the moment. I just wanted to run it by you because you've used the word mindset a few times, right? And it seems to me that you think the word mindset. I think of concrete. You call it concrete, right? In the States, and it's set and it's fixed, right? Mindset is fixed, but what changes our lives is when our mind changes, when we have an insight. We used to think this, and now we think that. There's been a shift in our mindset. So I think I'd prefer something like, I don't know, mind fluid. I don't want to be set in my ways. I want to learn. I want mind fluid. And this word mindset seems a bit finite, and it's the end of learning. And that's not, it strikes me that that's not who you and me have a passion for learning.
Very much.
So we don't actually want a set mind. We prefer mind fluid to mindset. Does that?
Yeah, no, I actually like that's you're a smart man. I like the way you put that, because it makes complete sense. I don't want to be set in my ways. I want to learn all the time. I think the mind is an amazing thing, and I'm a big follower of energy. You give what you get. I try to be as positive as I can all the time.
Yeah.
As much as I can, because I know most things, at least for me, I can be in my own head, and I can't be set in that. I need to be able to fluidly move around, be able to identify what's going on and say, okay, this is not the mind frame that's going to help me in this situation.
Yeah. I just play with words, that's all really, because I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that really, because the voice in my head is running 1,000,000 miles an hour. You know, what do they say? I think some brain surgeons in California measured, you know, put some a helmet on some kids and adults, or whatever, students, and measured that they have like 60,000 thoughts a day, right? So I'm not counting 60,000 thoughts a day, clearly, but you know, they just meant a little synapse going off. I don't have 60,000 thoughts a day, but I don't. Sorry, 60. There's not 60,000 sentences a day flying through my head, from the voice in my head. And yeah, it is pretty dense place. So all I do is I pick on little words to explore, and that's why to get to the crux of the matter, right? You know, like you said, you felt anger was stitched into you, and I just thought that's a really powerfully succinct way of expressing how you felt most of your life. And so yeah, this mindset thing, I don't know where that came from, but I just said concrete metaphor stuck in our ways. I want to share another one with you, since you talked about coaching, something that I heard years ago. You know, just a little bit of feedback for you, Simon. You know, like when you hear just a little bit of feedback, when I heard that, and my heart sunk with the feedback, because feedback is going over the past and saying what we did wrong. And the guy who explained this to me said, I don't want any feedback, but I'd love some feed forward. What do I do differently? Kind of next time, feed forward. And I think, you know, like when we take a word like feedback, which is so kind of common and so kind of, yeah, that's a great thing, but then we flip it on its head and say feed forward. And I think it's one of those, it's a little jolt. It's a little jolt that may lead us to a change. And I wanted to share something else that popped into my head was I did a podcast with a fellow adoptee called Emma Stevens. She's written a book called The Gathering Place, which is a great book. I check out her episodes in Thriving Adoptees. I'll put a link into it in the show notes to this one, actually. So she was an alcoholic for a while, but she also talked about being addicted to thought. Addicted to thought. And that struck me as the same thing as mindset, right? So addicted to thought, she'd been addicted to alcohol, but then she realized she was addicted to thought as well. And the thought that we're all addicted to, a lot of us addicted to as adoptees, is that that we're not good enough. You know, there's something wrong with us. And I'm just and that addiction stays in place until we have a sufficiently big aha moment, right? Till we shift. And how does that sit with you? Have you seen some shift in that? Well, first of all, does that make any sense? Addicted to thought. This thought.
I try not to be addicted to any of my thoughts unless they're positive. You know, you made me really, as soon as you said that, you know, she wrote a book, and as you're explaining, and I think about mine, and, you know, I just, you know, I have to say, I'd love to hear that people do write their stories. I think that's good. That helps a lot of people. But addicted to thought, I try not to be. I try to be fluid. I try to be fluid with my thoughts.
Yeah,
100%.
sure.
Unless it's love or anything positive. I just try to be addicted to this.
Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. Tell us about your book. You mentioned the book, so tell us about your book and the story, Thomas.
Well, my number one thing, my title, because I went back and forth, a lot of pushback, but I titled it, I Didn't Know I Was Black Until You Told Me. That the reason why I named it that was when I was a baby, I didn't remember, obviously too much. I had a mom, I had a dad, and I thought that my life was normal. There was Asians in the house, other Black kids. So I thought that everyone lived like that. As I got older and realized where we lived, that all white people, like everywhere that we went. And obviously very quickly you got, you're told, I learned that, okay, these are not my parents. I started asking them questions. And then you realize how many boxes of being Black that at least American people put on it, the expectations, your limitations, the way you're supposed to carry yourself, and being brought up by white people. And I don't even like using those terms, but just for this sake, I'll use it. People would say, "Well, you're not really Black because I don't know, I'm not ghetto. I'm not. Like." And it was just so confusing. So putting that on top of what was going on, I just, that's why I named it. I didn't know I was Black until you told me. Just from those expectations, and that actually made life even hard because then you really have an identity crisis as well. So not only do you have the crisis of not being wanted, you go out into the world and then you're treated a certain way for the color of your skin. One part in my book, one of the earliest that we didn't even understand was we're in Sunday school, and people didn't want to leave their children in Sunday school with the Black kids, so they made us stand in the hallway as they're singing "Jesus Loves You," red or yellow, black. I distinctly remember this. Red or yellow, Black or white, we're all precious in His sight. But you guys have to go stand in the hallway. You not understanding it then and looking back, the effects that even just that alone had. So when we're just talking about that hole and how hard you're pushing that ball into the water, for the first 10 years to 12 years of my life, I'm being pushed down and pushed down and pushed down. Even when I would go to school and the first time we heard racial slurs, and when we learned about slavery, and you're one Black face in a sea of 30, and they're showing these graphic images, push me down a little further. That's where a lot of the anger. So as the harder that ball went under the water, was as angrier as I got. And just could, and then so not being wanted, then dealing with certain racial issues, identity issues. They thought it'd be better to take us around Black kids, so they took us in the city. And if you're not from the city, you carry yourself differently. So then you get made fun of. So the people with the same color skin, you're different then because you didn't act like them. So I literally fit in nowhere. I remember distinctly, I made it on this basketball team. My parents thought, let's get them around more Black kids. Maybe that'll be better for them. They made fun of me so bad for the way I talked, for the stuff that I wanted to talk about, that at that moment, I didn't even like Black people. I didn't like white people. I thought everyone was crazy. And that's where I was like, this color thing, this not being wanted, all this stuff doesn't make sense. That's why I really wanted to write the book, and I started writing journal entries, because I said I was going to write a book, because I was like, this world is crazy. There's something wrong with this world, that we're that. It's almost as if you was to tell a Black person they like this or that, and you're a white person, you're supposed to get offended, right? But if I don't do that in front of the Black people, those stereotypes, then they still push you out.
You can't win.
You cannot win. It's you cannot win. There's just no way of winning, because people are set in their thoughts. I talk about color blindness, and I try to explain to people, and people, you see color. Yeah, I understand that. But people are so fixed on color that they want to put you in these certain boxes. When they see you, if you're a Black man, you have to probably vote this way. You probably do this. You have to do this, because I think in their minds it makes sense. It doesn't make sense that, oh, you're a Black man, you're raised by white people. Oh, that's why you would talk like that. And my parents came from Germany. They have the heaviest German accent, so I didn't learn the way I talk from them. The older kids that was raising me and that was talking to me were Asians. They still had their Asian accents. I got my talking from reading, saying words correctly. And I was shunned by the Black community because I say my words correctly. It's one of the most strangest things that I've ever.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add on to that. This is as bad as it got. Now, it was not me, but every single one of my friends, 80% of my brothers, all ended up with felonies. They started listening to rap music thinking, okay, this is what it's like to be Black. This is how I have to carry myself. They did quote unquote Black things, started just making bad decisions, all went to prison, all have felonies. I was the only one. I was second to the youngest. And then my younger brother, we're the only two without the felonies, because it caused such an identity crisis for all my brothers. Because even if they were in between 1, 5, 7 coming to the house, you gradually change to your surroundings. You're not going to talk like you're from the ghetto anymore. You read, your mind starts to change, and then you go back around those type of people, and they completely shun you. And it's that was hard.
That was hard, yeah. Do you still think the anger is stitched into you?
I just feel like I know it's there. If you had a pie, right, and you had it cut in like however many equal pieces, just with love, with anger, with motivation, I'll even put hate in there. I don't really like to use that word, but sometimes I just feel I I just think it's just all there, like and it's and it comes from from just circumstances that one would go through.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Where you get your motivation to do this?
I didn't believe that I was wounded until I read The Primal Wound, and it took me down. And then when I realized that when I realized that we're all fundamentally unwoundable, I bounced back, and that's when I bounced higher. You know, it took me down a foot, and I bounced back 2 foot, and I wanted to try and figure a way to help other people see that too, because I have felt wounded, but I believe in my heart of hearts that who we truly are, the spirit of who we are, the essence of who we are, the unchanging part of who we are, the resilient part of who we are, the diamond in the trauma of the diamond hidden in the trauma of we've been through, the diamond hidden underneath the trauma of how we feel about how we've been to, that is unwoundable. And I want to explore that, because I know how believing in the primal wound and believing that I was primarily wounded affected me. And I don't think it's true. I don't think the primal wound is true. Yes, I have felt wounded by adoption, by being adopted on some occasions, and for a fair bit of my life, but we're not our feelings.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
And it's a tricky one to, that's why I like the metaphors, right? So feelings come and go like clouds, and we are the sky. It's a tricky thing. You can't really put it into words. So I'm constantly trying to figure out better ways to put it into words. And yeah, so like I've been working on my book this morning, and when you said the gap in, you saw the light, the gap in the clouds, I wrote that down like 5 minutes before we started speaking today.
Really?
Yeah, I wrote that metaphor down.
Wow.
So that sends shivers down my spine. But that window, the window in the clouds, the window in the storm clouds of how we feel, the anger. It's a storm, isn't it? It's dark, it's black, it's chucking out rain. You got lightning coming in, and then it kind of like it eases a little bit, and there's a little bit of blue sky.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a gap in the clouds. The truth of who we are, the limitless expanse of the sky, it's veiled by the clouds, and we get obsessed by the clouds, because and yeah, we get obsessed by the clouds. Well, I do. I've been obsessed by the clouds because I haven't seen the sky. So I'm looking for ways to help others, and see the truth of who we are.
That's amazing, because I love that, because I have a lot of brothers, and none of them are like even close to me. They're very closed off. Everyone I grew up with, all the way to my adopted mom, I don't talk to anybody. So I'm back to being alone. I mean, outside of my family, my wife, and kids,
Yeah.
my family now. And it's almost as we all have the same problems, but it's like what we choose to do with them. And seeing or thinking of my brothers and looking at it, that whole period of my life was kind of like just like a season. And where I find myself today, it makes me more thankful for what I have today, because it's almost as if that wasn't even meant to last. That all those people that I was brought up with, I wasn't supposed to. We don't have Christmases together, on holidays, we're alone, like my kids, they don't understand what it would be like to be around family. They just look at it as something that we do. It's just us. I don't want to say it's tough, but it is. If I look at my life like it's supposed to be like, say, someone else's life that does have grandparents, grandmas, grandpas, where they all get together. So this has to be normal for me. And I think it's normal for my kids to, this is how it is, it's not about grandmas, grandpas, it's mom and dad putting on different hats to be with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, fighting with what is, or fighting with our feelings, any sort of fighting is a fight. That's what it seems to me. So I'm looking for a bit more peace. Brilliant. So listeners, check out Thomas's website, check out his book in the show notes. So I just feel like I cut you off there. I jumped straight in. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I'm just like deep in thought. You're getting me to think deep, and I think that's amazing. I like it. I love it.
Yeah. Well, we got to go deep. As I said at the start, right? We got to go deep, because that's where the gems are, right? That's where the wisdom's hidden, deep underneath the layers of our anger, insecurity, and our frustration, and underneath our hatred. Use the hate. Use the word hatred. Underneath the hatred, deep buried underneath all of that are the gems of wisdom and seeing who we truly are. So thank you, my friend. I've really loved this conversation.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, listeners. We will speak to you very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.